Hello, in this presentation we will compare QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop. Hello, in this presentation we're going to record deposits within QuickBooks Online. We will have a comprehensive QuickBooks Online course soon, if not available yet. We also have a comprehensive Excel course which complements the QuickBooks courses, and a QuickBooks Pro desktop version course you can find at the link below. Here we are on the QuickBooks Online dashboard. We will be continuing with the Get Great Guitars problem, and we're going to see how to record deposits and group deposits in the same way that we will be depositing them into the bank. So to do this, we want to go through the scenario of what is happening in terms of the ordering of when things are going to take place, why they're going to take place in that way, why we need to enter them into the system in that way. When we're going through the normal business process, we're going to be processing invoices and sales receipts. Invoices meaning we are invoicing someone and we're going to get paid at a future point. Sales receipts meaning we're getting paid at that same point in time. In the case of an invoice, we expect to receive payment later. So within the mail, we expect hopefully to get a payment for that invoice for the work we did in the past. If we had a sales receipt, such as a guitar was sold in the store, we probably get payment right at that point in time. We get cash at that point in time, let's say. Then at the end of the day, we're going to have receipts that we got from invoices that happened in the past, and we're going to have sales receipts that we got from sales made during the day. At the end of the day, or at some time interval, we're going to have to then go to the bank and deposit this information into the bank. As we enter this into the system, when we get the money, either from the receiving of payment from an invoice in the past or a sales receipt, we don't put it right in the checking account because it didn't go into the checking account if we received a cash or a check. What we're going to do is put it into this undeposited funds, go to the bank at the end of the day, then put it all in the bank in the same grouping that we deposited into the bank, and therefore we'll have the same grouping in our system as we will see from the bank on the bank statement will be needed to do that when we match up our system to the bank statement in the bank reconciliation. So we're going to go through this process now. This is basically the end process where we're making the deposit. We're going to the bank at the end of the day, and we're going to deposit this money that we've got during the day. So we're going to go through here. We got the normal transactions and this little plus icon. We have the customers, the vendors, and the employees, and the other. And we want to be in the banking system. So we're actually in other. This is going to be the normal kind of transactions that don't fit into just one of the customer, vendor, or employee. And we're going to say the bank deposit. Notice, however, that this bank deposit probably fits most closely into the customers area because we're typically going to have an invoice and then receive payment on that invoice and then enter the bank deposit, or we're going to have just a sales receipt and then go and enter that into the bank deposit. The reason the bank deposit's over here in the other is most likely because there's other types of deposits we can have other than deposits from a customer. So it's in this section. So we're going to say the bank deposit. And if we've been working with this undeposited funds account, then it gives us a nice little check figure over here so that we can group these deposits. Now typically whatever's in undeposited funds means that we have deposits we have not yet made, and we're just going to take it all to the bank and deposit it all. So normally we would check off everything we have here. That's what we would be depositing into the bank. But in this case, we want to get used to grouping this stuff out. So we did this problem a little bit in a funnier order in that we did multiple days of transactions so that we could practice like transactions. And now we're going to make the deposits here at one time. So we'll group these deposits just to see how this grouping will happen. And we're first going to say that we're just going to deposit this 420 and this 208. So this is the total amount in undeposited funds. If we were on the balance sheet, we would see that in other current assets. We're just going to deposit of that the string music and the Sam Guitar Man. That's 420 and 208, or 628. So when we do that, then it's going to increase the checking account by the 628 because we're depositing it into the checking account, and decrease the undeposited funds, the other asset account, the holding account that we had this in, until we made the trip to the bank. Note up here that we do have the checking account selected. That should be selected by default, the checking account item. There's the balance, and then of course we should have the date here, and the date's going to be We're going to say January 01/17/21. So January 17, 2021, we are working in the 2021 year for this problem, this demonstration problem. We're then going to say save. I'm just going to say save and new. And then we'll take a look at the deposit. So I'm going to close this back out. We're not going to make another deposit yet. We're going to close this back out. And we'll go to the reports on the left-hand side. We'll go to reports. We're looking for the balance sheet, so we're going to type in balance sheet and click on the balance sheet. And we'll change the dates to the dates we are working on, which is 01/01/21, January 1st, 2021 to 01/31/21, January 31st, 2021, and run that report. Within that report, then, we should see in the checking account, it should be increasing by that 628. Let's see if that is indeed the case. Selecting the 105 in there, we see the 128. Here it is. So we have this deposit. It'll be listed here in the transaction detail report. If we select that item, then we see that information here. Here's our deposit. So we'll close that back out. We'll see if we can find the other side of this transaction, going back up, going back to the summary, which is going to be the balance sheet. And we will look for the other side in undeposited funds. Here's undeposited funds, still has 20,500 in it. If we select it, we see these items, and it broke it out by two different items. Note, it's the same deposit here, but it broke it out by item. If we select either of these, the 420, we'll see it's this deposit that is including the 420 and the 208. So in the checking account, it was shown as the 628, which is important because that'll match what we see on the bank statement for our bank reconciliation. And here we see the detail of the two. I'm going to X this back out, go back out. And here we see the detail of the two, the actual components of the deposits in this form. So those are going to be the two parts of the deposit. Going to go back to the balance sheet, back to the report. Now we're going to run this back one more time and deposit the rest of them, grouping them in a different format. So meaning instead of grouping them all in one big deposit, we group them in two deposits. So we're going to go up top once again and make another deposit in this little plus icon. In the other section, we have the bank deposit. So we're going to select the bank deposit. And within the bank deposit, we're going to have the date. Let's change the date first of all. We're in the checking account once again. And don't forget to change the date, 1/17/21. Obviously, if it's the current date that we're working on, then we don't have to worry about that as much because we're working in real time. But whenever we work in book problems, we have an added difficulty sometimes, and that's because we want to jump around in dates in order to demonstrate things. So we're often working in a date situation a bit different than normal circumstances. We're going to choose the rest of them now. We're going to deposit all of the rest of these. So we're going to go to the bank, deposit this, just check it off, check it off, check it off. And there we have the 20,500. It's going to all be deposited at one time. It's going to be shown in our system in the checking account as that 20,005. And that will match what will be shown on the bank statement if we group the same grouping when we go to the bank. And that means it'll be easy for us to check off. So when we do this, once again, anytime you see the bank deposit, it means it's going to increase the checking account most likely, if that's the account we selected here, which it generally will be. And the other side of it will typically be, in this case, undeposited funds, because that's the system we have set up, undeposited funds being that clearing account. So therefore, the checking account will go up, undeposited funds will go down to 0, which means it'll disappear on our report, on our balance sheet, because the balance sheet will not report any accounts that have a 0 balance in them. So let's check that out and see if that is indeed the case. We're going to say save and new down here, green icon. Make sure to record it before we leave it. And then we're going to leave it. We're going to go close this out. We're back to the balance sheet. So if you need to open the balance sheet back up, you go to reports over here and type in balance sheet. And then we want the dates to be 01/01/212, 01/31/21, January 1st, 2021 to January 31st, 2021. We're going to scroll back down, and we might want to even refresh this even if we already have that here just to make sure. Clicking on the checking account once again, we're going to select the checking account and see the detail here. And now we have our two deposits. So we made this one prior and we grouped those deposits in this one. And then we grouped these deposits out in this 20,500. If we select that, then we see our deposits here, and this is going to be grouped together in that separate deposit. We're going to close this back out. We're going to go back to the report, so back to report summary. And then we're going to scroll down and we have the undeposited funds. It is still showing up, so we still have the undeposited funds with a 0 balance, so we can see the detail in it. So we're going to click on that and we're going to scroll back down and we see these items, the 7,005, the 8,000, we see the detail in them. So if we click on one of them, then we'll see that one deposit, it includes all 3 of those items and it's broken out in the detail when we go back to the summary report. So if we close this back out, in other words, we see the detail here. Whereas in the checking account, remember, it was all one number. So we're going to scroll back to the report, back to the balance sheet, and those will be our 2 deposits.